I've been on a low, I've been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Project Mayday. These are your hosts G and Bree, and today we have Cynthia Ricker. She is 27 years in San Francisco Fire Department, newly retired. Congratulations on that, and she has a bunch of stories in those 27 years. So Cynthia, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. A little nervous, apparently. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you. I'm very happy to be newly retired and excited to be part of Project Mayday and talking with you folks about all the ins and outs of a career in the fire service and everything that comes with it.
So let's get started. What got you into the fire department?
When I was a little kid, I grew up in Marin, and I was interested. The local firefighters would come and do the county parade, and I would go. I have a photo of me in front of the fire engine. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I love the idea of helping people, and it wasn't really something little girls did in the 70s, and I always had parents that were very supportive of me doing whatever I wanted, but it wasn't really something I kept going with. And so that kind of fell off, and then right when I finished college, I went to the local Pride Parade, and it was the first year, it would have been like 1992-ish. It was the first year that San Francisco Fire Department was allowed by the city and by the department to march in the parade. And they were handing out flyers, and the fire engines came by, and I was standing there, and just all that interest came back, and I yelled something at one of the firefighters was going by, something along the lines of, "Hey baby, you can put out my fire." And she handed me over. She walked over and handed me a flyer and said, "You can put out your own."
Ooh, I like that.
It's a great line. And
So good.
And it stuck with me because I put that flyer in my pocket and I went home, and when I pulled that out, like all those memories of wanting to do that as a kid came back. And I was working as an office manager at the time, and it was just so different than anything that I had thought I would actually wind up doing as an adult. And it just stuck with me. I got the desire to do it, and I went through the whole process. And a couple of years later, it took time, got into the job in 1994. So
I was 3 years old.
Well, that makes one less.
That makes me not your age.
So Cynthia, you got that flyer. You're super pumped. You're in. Now you've started. How was probation like for you? And probation, for those listening, is when a newly firefighter comes on duty. It's the first year. It's kind of like a trial period kind of thing. How was that for you?
I would say it was challenging. There were definitely times. The first firehouse I was in was kind of really old school. A lot of old guys in there who were surprisingly not threatened by me, were actually very much kind of in their routine, but kind of saw me really as like their daughter's age was kind of what I felt like. And so I actually got support from them. It was very old school, San Francisco, they served a full platter of food on the table, gained my Proby 10 in about a month and a half. It was just a really traditional firehouse in Chinatown. And that experience was pretty good. And then I went to a different firehouse that was much younger people, had a great truck boss there, and found that more challenging. That was definitely a group of a lot of really young men who were my age, and oddly enough, to my surprise, they generally had a harder time with it. They were more threatened by a woman who was their peer being in the fire service with them. And so that was surprising to me, and I definitely had times where I thought about, can I do this? I never wanted to quit, but there were definitely times. I remember one time I went upstairs and wrote down a list of everything I wanted to be in this job, everything I wanted to have from this job and be able to contribute to this job. And I was just like, I worked too hard to give this up. I am not quitting. I know I can have this.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, all the talks that we've done and spoken to people, it's always the old school, that are super
Yeah.
resistant. And so with you saying that, especially being in Station 2, right, Chinatown, old school, you got old school guys with you, and they're the ones that are more accepting rather than the ones that are your age. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, it was surprising to me. And, but a lot of them just kind of were paternal and, saw me as like their daughter. And it was just, and anything I say about the fire service, I can't blanket state anything about Station 2 or any firehouse or any group of people. I mean, I had great experiences within any particular group and hard experiences within, so like none of it's absolute. But that was generally the impression I got in that first year.
So Cynthia, you have a really interesting perspective, being in the fire service for 27 years, and currently we still see less than 5% of firefighters being female. In your experience, why do you think that is happening still to this day?
Well, that's a really great question. I think there's just still that illusion that women, it's not accessible to women, that women just don't think to go into these kinds of jobs, into the trades, into blue collar, police, fire. Statistically, I don't know why. My guess is, I don't know. It still bugs me. Like I see billboards and there's like a picture of a woman firefighter or a female police officer, and they're like, you too can join the fire service. And I'm like, it's been 3 decades that women have been in the fire service, more than 3 decades in San Francisco. And why is it still a you too thing? I don't understand it. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of reaching out and telling people about this opportunity. I think women are super important to the fire service. They bring a whole different set of skills and a whole different set of perspective and balance. And they're part of the community we serve. And just like, any situation, you want to be able to reflect the community you serve within your workforce. So, I don't have a specific answer for it, but it is a really good question.
No. And then San Francisco, it celebrates diversity and the gay culture and all that, and females. Yeah. Was it the city that kind of drove the department to go that route, or was it what's your take on that?
There's, the history of it is that there was, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have all the information right in front of me, but there was a consent decree, which was a court-ordered mandate that happened in the late 80s, where the city was sued, or the department was sued to diversify the department. And at that time, there was a court order that a certain percentage of all firefighters be within categories of women or people of color. So there was a whole period of time where they were mandated to hire a more diverse workforce. That since it's expired, and you see now that the workforce is becoming more and more white and more male. We have solid representation of Asians, and we have all categories in our department, which is one of the things I love about the department. It was definitely one of the best parts of the job, was being able to sit around the kitchen table and have this huge, diverse group of people all sitting together, having a great meal together and talking. And I always just thought that was the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was your favorite firehouse?
The department was forced to diversify, and so I was part of that wave of hiring. And we all went through the same testing as everyone else. They just had to allow women in. They had to literally allow women in. Mm-hmm. And so the first 4 women came in I want to say 90, I think it was late 80s. And, and I was like I was like in the 60s in terms of women that had come in. It definitely wasn't the first. I definitely stood on shoulders of women who came in before me and really blazed the trail on that, which was not easy.
Were you under a female captain or lieutenant when you were coming in?
No, I did have female officers. There were some that had, moved up before me, thank goodness. And then I had a lot of really great male officers as well, who were supportive. We had right around when I had my son in the late 90s, we we had an all-female crew, one of the first all-female crews. For a while, we had a female captain, and we had a lot of fun. It was great, you know. We got called different names. We were the hen house.
The hen house.
They're like,
awesome.
we don't care. We're having fun. You can call us whatever you want.
Yeah. So, Cynthia, you said, you know, this is when you had your son. So you were pregnant in the firehouse?
Yeah, so I got pregnant in 1999, when my son was born in 1999. So I was one of the first, I don't know if I was the first, but I was one of the first women to be pregnant in the department. And there was really no understanding of how to handle that. Don't think that's changed much now. You know, they basically were like, okay. So they basically treated me like I was disabled and put me on light duty, which was fine. And so I did that. I worked in the department gym for a while and did that while I was pregnant. And the whole maternity leave policy was a mess. And I just wound up having to kind of burn all my time. And that's also a bit better now, just with different mandates. But so I was pregnant, and then I came back to work, and I was breastfeeding at the time, and there was that whole kind of like, okay, how do I pump at work? And
you're like, you guys don't use that milk. That is meant for my baby at home.
Joke, right? Like I had one of the guys was like, give me one of those bags, and pour milk into it, and they put it in the fridge and pull it out and pour it in the cereal. That was pretty funny. But it was interesting and challenging. And my former wife was also in the fire department with me, and so we were actually in the same firehouse together. And and that was challenging.
But different shifts, right?
Yeah, we were doing shifts. So she would literally bring Max into the firehouse in the morning and hand him to me, and then I would go home. And the story is always we'd put him on the lazy Susan in the middle of the big table, and he was just a little tiny guy, and he'd sit there, and everybody would stand around the table, and they'd spin him, and he'd go around in circles.
Spin the Max. Spin the Max.
So, yeah, my Max. So he's 21 now, almost 22. So
is he looking? Is he looking at being a firefighter?
Well, right now he's looking at being an engineer. He's a senior in college, and he's doing his degree in mechanical engineering.
Okay, so he's smarter than all of us.
Yeah, I told him to go get his degree. I feel like that's important that he has his degree, and if he ever wants to go into public safety, then he has my support. So we'll see. He might not. I don't know.
No. So let's dive into more of the calls. And, 27 years, you have a bunch. I know, latter part of your career, you went to the airport station. However, before that, being in Chinatown, being in all these various areas of San Francisco, what are some calls that kind of stick out to you still, that you still kind of, think about on those kind of long drives that you might have?
Long drive, yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot of calls I remember. The ones that really stick with you are the ones that felt really tragic or really hard. The vehicle accidents, and particularly the ones where you feel like maybe you didn't do something right, or you feel like you could have done more. And those are the ones that really stick with you. I was talking this morning with my wife about it and kind of what calls, and there's, I don't know. It's hard. I think, I know there's a fire I caught where I had, mom and a grandma and four of her grandkids all died. And, I spent a lot of time upstairs with the coroner afterwards trying to find the bodies because they were all buried under the debris. And, I was saying to my wife this morning, I think I just kind of disassociated. Like I kind of pretended I was like on a movie set, and I was, this was all just made up. And it took me a long time to really go back and look at that and go like, well, what was that? Like I really had to just kind of remove myself from the scene in order to kind of be part of it in any way and be of use. And, I think anytime you have a child or someone who reminds you of someone in your family you love, like those kind of calls always stay with you in a really different way, and I've had to do different things through my career to manage those, where I've either. I mean, one of the things I did early on was I made an agreement with myself that if I needed help, I was going to go get it. And I actually made an agreement with myself that I wasn't going to get it through the department.
Why is that?
Well, honestly, because I just didn't trust it would be kept confidential. And so I didn't feel like I would be able to speak freely about it. And I just wanted to make sure that I had the resources that I need to really, truly get help if I needed it. And there were definitely times where I would reach out to a therapist or a coworker or a friend or family member and just process out what had happened. And that was usually like, if you have a run, I mean, you go on a lot of runs and you go home and you don't think about it again, and then you go on a run and it's still with you a week later and it's still with you a month later. And some of them are still with you 27 years later, and that's okay. It's okay they're with you. It's like any experience in life. You have to take those in and absorb it. And, but then the question is it being disruptive? And if it gets disruptive, then, I would work to get support. But I don't always think I did that enough. And I don't think I really understood kind of the full impact of it all on me.
Do you think you did enough for yourself? Is that what you mean?
I think I could have done more.
Mental wellness?
Yeah, I think I definitely could have done more self-care in that regard. I think I was also in a marriage with someone who had PTSD from a fire incident. And so that impacted my relationship and her well-being. And so I definitely have feelings of sadness about that and kind of my not really understanding how much it was impacting her, and working more actively to get her support that she needed. I didn't really get it, even though I was in the job. I didn't really understand kind of the impact of PTSD in the way that I maybe understand more now,
No, I can definitely attest to that. You understand it well in the last year that I've known you. When we speak offline, it's just leaps and bounds of what you say, how you were behaving before and how you're showing up now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that you said that you made a pact to yourself that you would reach out for help outside of the department. Do you think that you being a female had anything to do with that? Do you think there was maybe a stereotype that you were already weaker and so you didn't want to bring that in?
Yeah, that's a big part of it, and it was a time where, when I first got in the job, there was a period of time where there was like a newsletter that was being produced, that was being sent to firehouses, it was being sent to people's homes, that would list all the things that the women or people of color had done that were wrong, quote unquote. And, this was a chief, they figured out later that was, retired chief who was publishing this and sending it to all the firehouses. So if any mistake was made or even perceived, it would get broadcast to the whole department. Of course, if the same mistakes were made or perceived for someone who was in a category that they didn't want to, they were just young and inexperienced and they messed up, and so there was definitely a sense of not wanting to be a target. I did things like, I got a P.O. box just to make sure that like my home address wasn't as easily accessible. Just things like that, because it just felt very like, and I was never subject to that, but I had a lot of friends who were, and it was really devastating to them, because, and the things were often just things that they were just what happens on the fire ground, equipment doesn't work and things don't go right. And, and that's part of managing any scene, and people get called out for it in a really unfair, unbalanced way. In this very kind of scandalous thing. And so, so there was definitely a sense of like not wanting to be a target. And so absolutely, I wasn't going to talk to the department about anything.
No. You've talked about your challenges of being a woman. How about going to the other side of being gay in the fire service? How was that?
Yeah. I was always out in the fire department. I never was in the closet. I was out the minute I, applied. I actually found, I think being queer, being lesbian was, in some ways was just a positive thing for me. It there's a community of people in the department. There was a connection there with other women and some men who are out. I was always proud. I've always been proud of who I am. And, and my wife at the time and I had a baby, and there were stories about that too. But
I'm sure.
Lots of gossip. But I was always proud of it, and I never had an issue with it. I didn't find the guys generally had a hard time with it. Most of them didn't seem particularly threatened by it, and my guess is that, and I can't speak to this, but my guess is that the gay men had a harder time with it because it's just more threatening.
So now fast forwarding to you in 26 years in, when did you make the decision to it's time to hang it up?
Yeah, so I moved down to the airport when my son was about 10, so it'd be 2009-ish, and then I wound up staying down there for the rest of my career, and and the job was great, and I just, over time, I just felt how much more I just wasn't recovering on my days off, and the impact on the sleep, the impact on just the body, and just the generalized kind of like the tension you carry all the time, just getting ready to go to work and being at work, and it's hard to even understand it until you're not in it anymore, and you kind of just live it, and you do it, and you think you got this, and that's fine. And I did it for a long time, and I was really of the mindset that I wanted to retire where I was still healthy, where my head was still on straight, where my body was still healthy. I have a lot of friends in the department die of cancer. Had 2 coworkers die from my firehouse in the last month from a heart attack. It's been really sad. And my cat's about to join the meeting here. Excuse me. And and so there's just really a sense for me of like as soon as I was able to financially go, I decided to go because I wanted to be able to live my life and be healthy.
No, with that, the statistics show firefighters after retirement, 5 years is kind of like the number. How do you feel? Like, does that cross your mind? Like, because I'm sure you've been on fires where, that mask wasn't sealed on too tight, and all that, and going back into the fire with all that soot. So how do you feel?
There's really sobering statistics about survival after retirement, and even just survival in the job. I feel like I have a better shot at living a longer, healthier life by retiring a little younger and being able. I'm 53 now, and being able to take care of myself. Just getting regular sleep is huge. I've been doing this retirement thing for about a month now, and I can already just feel the difference in how I feel and look and my energy and everything. So, I'm hopeful to live a long life. I'm getting married this weekend coming up, so I'm hoping to live a long life with this wonderful woman who's been kind enough to marry me.
She's been kind enough.
So awesome. I do have a question though about retirement. You're a month out, but do you ever struggle with the identity of you are no longer an active firefighter? Does that bother you at all, or were you just ready?
Yes. Yeah, definitely both. I was definitely ready, and I was really fortunate that I was able to retire on my own terms. I decided when I was going to retire, I was able to, and that does not always happen. People get retired out forcibly by disability or injury or sickness all the time. And so I was very fortunate that I was able to make that happen. And yeah, it's a really big shift in identity. Just people say, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a retired lieutenant from the fire department, and that's not even what I do anymore. It's so I'm right now in the middle of all this wedding planning, so my brain's like totally caught up in doing that. But I know that once that's done and kind of the initial kind of excitement of all that passes, then there'll kind of be that moment of like, well, what is my identity now, and how do I reform it into something different? I'm a beginning artist. I'm learning how to be Stephen bought one of my first teams.
Yes, I did. You're a paid artist. Paid artist.
Paid artist because of G.
$20.
I definitely. So I'm just really wanting to travel and learn and continue with my art classes, and then just my parents are older, and I really want to have time with them while they're still, healthy and capable of really being with me. It is a real shift. There's definitely been some pretty weird highs and lows in the last month. Like there's mornings I wake up and I feel really blue, and I'm just like, what the heck is that? And then there's mornings where I'm just wake up and I'm like, whoa, I'm retired.
Slept in.
I expect that it'll just go that way for a while, and there'll be moments where like, okay, I really have to think about what's next and make some concrete decisions. But I have that power to totally decide what I want to do with my life right now, and I have the time and the freedom to do those things. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. Kind of wrapping things up, I do want to ask you this before we get into our rapid fire. You're about to get married. So what are some things that you're looking forward to, with Chris, your fiance?
Well, now that, hopefully in this pandemic totally wound down and it's really safe, we definitely want to travel. She's gone back to school. I might go back to school and maybe get a master's in fine art. I don't know. Definitely taking classes, reading books. It's all about experiences at this point in my life. It's not about things. I just really want to have as many experiences as I can with her and just get to enjoy life, So
Cynthia, if you had to give advice to any females out there who have even considered going into the fire service, what would you tell them?
Oh, yeah. I would just say it's a great career, and it's a great career for women. It's just a fantastic job to get into, and it's a great job to raise a family within. You get, you have time off you can move your days around. You can, I was able to go to all the school events and make that work. And I really feel like as women, we're capable of just bringing so much to the fire service. And to our communities, and we totally can do the job. I've been watching women do this job for decades, and we do a great job. And
absolutely,
more than capable, and in all regards. So I think it's a great job, and I think if you get into the job and you're doing it, it's really important to learn about the impact of things on you early on. And I think there's more attention to that now than there was when I came in. People talk a lot more about mental health and the impact on you. And, and I think I got pretty lucky that I was able to take care of myself the way I was. But, not everybody kind of has that mindset, and people do a lot of things that aren't helpful. And so it's important to learn about that stuff early in your career and figure out how to kind of take care of yourself in a really solid way. Mm-hmm. Stuff happens, and it's just more than you can cope with on your own, and that's okay.
That's
absolutely
right. That's
no,
right.
for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
You have to call out. So Cynthia, it's time. It's time for rapid fire. When you got that when you got that flyer back in the day that you can put out your own fire. Now it's time to put out your own fire.
Okay, all right.
Here we go.
Here we go. So the rule is you have to answer in one word or one phrase. That's it.
Okay.
All right. I know that retired brain of yours. I don't know about rules, but
no, I like to think. I might be a thinker. But.
So one word or one phrase. Bree, take it over.
Okay, first question. Is there anything you're superstitious about?
Graveyard.
Graveyard. Oh, she got a black cat, so I know that wasn't it.
That is true.
Not cats. No, not cats at all.
All right, graveyard. Like what's the superstition?
What's not the superstition?
Is there a conversation about this too, or is it just
No,
that was my bad. I don't understand the rules.
We'll talk offline.
I don't understand the rules.
Okay, number 2. If you had to work but didn't need any money, what would you do?
I work with kids and teach maybe art, something with little people. I love little kids. They're awesome.
All right. Anytime I have 3 if you want to babysit. Okay. Question number 3. If your life was a movie, what genre would it be?
That would be a romantic drama.
Yeah. I would say so.
All right. Number 4. If you had a yacht, what would you name it?
Then Halo.
Halo?
And Halo.
Oh,
It's desire or want in Spanish.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Learning things every day.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. What is one word to describe being retired?
Relief.
Relief. Oof.
That's a good way to sum this up.
Yeah, for sure. Heavy.
There's a lot of relief.
Yeah, and knowing you when you were in and now you're not in, you could just see it on your face. Like that relief, you can definitely sense it. The way you talk, the way you carry yourself, strong, powerful woman. I mean, not that you weren't that when you were in, but you just absolutely, that is priority. You yourself is a priority, and we're really happy that you're taking that on. And 1 month in, wedding coming up, it's all up and up.
Big things.
It's all good. No, I'm super, super grateful for everything, and and it's been great knowing you too, and getting to be part of the whole project you did with the basic and everything. That was amazing. So
Yeah. All right, Cynthia. Well, thank you so much for your service, 27 years, and
thank you
for coming on. And have a fantastic wedding. And we will see you soon. All right.
All right.
You take care. This is Project Mayday. Call out.
Call out.
I finally